magnificent story ever. From creation to Jesus, the Line It Up series.
Hey guys, I'm Michael from eKid.
That's me.
So check it out. We're going to learn these big topics.
Creation, the fall, promises, slavery, Passover,
Law.
kingdom, temple, exile, and of course Jesus.
We'll even talk about the Psalms. In the Old Testament, guys, there are some ups and there are some downs, and all these ups and downs actually lead to Jesus.
Wow.
Are you ready?
Yep.
So God created the whole world. That's creation. Things were good. But then we messed up. So that's bad. But the thing is that God promised to help us. He gave us covenants, and like a covenant's like a deal, like, you know, shaking hands. It's like a deal. So God made deals with us to make things better. But guess what we did? We messed up. We didn't follow the deal, and the Israelites ended up in slavery. Bad again. But what ends up happening is people turn their eyes to God, they begin following God again, and then He saves them, and they have the Passover about how God saves His people. They end up crossing the Red Sea and being free again. And when they cross that Red Sea and they're free, God gives them the law, a bunch of rules and things. But for now, know that they didn't exactly obey the law that well, and things got worse. Instead of really wanting God to be their king, well, they wanted to have people as their king. So they created a kingdom. Some of that's good and some of that's bad. But what's great is that they built a temple to worship God in. So that's a good thing. And after that, the worst thing happens is they end up in exile because they turn their eyes from God again. And exile means that they were kind of told to go away from their home and didn't rule their own home. So that was really bad. But later, in the New Testament, we find the answer to all this is Jesus. See this over here? We have God who's like good.
Yep.
Everything's fine. God's good. When we're close to God, things are good.
Yeah, but...
We're down here because when we're not close to God, bad. But what God does to help us to get closer to Him is salvation. Check this out. The Old Testament shows us salvation over and over and over and over and over.
Over and 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 over again.
Things are good. We mess up. We turn to God. Things are good again. We mess up. We turn to God. Things are good again. We mess up. We turn to God. Things are good again. We mess up. We turn to God. Things are good again.
Over and over and over. And that's called salvation.
And that's called salvation.
And that's called salvation.
In your life, you might do bad things. But when you turn to God, that's called salvation.
Wow.
The first time you ever do it, you get saved. So you guys ready to hear the next story? All right, check it out.
What did Joseph's brothers do wrong that led to slavery?
So this is Joseph.
Hey!
You see, Joseph was the son of Israel and Rachel. Israel loved Joseph more than all 12 of his sons. In fact, he made Joseph a coat to show him how much he loved him. When Joseph's brothers saw this, they hated Joseph. One night, Joseph had a dream. When he awoke, Joseph told the dream to his brothers. He said, "Listen to this dream I had. We were gathering grain when suddenly my bundle of grain rose up and all of you bowed to me." This made his brothers hate Joseph even more. And they said, "You're gonna rule over us?" Then Joseph had another dream. And he told it to his brothers and his father. He said, Listen, I had another dream, and this time the sun and moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me. This time, Israel heard the dream and rebuked Joseph, saying, "Will your mother and brothers and I actually come and bow down before you?" The brothers were even more angry when they heard the second dream. Israel, however, decided to think about what Joseph was saying. One day, Joseph's brothers were working when they saw Joseph coming to meet them. One of his brothers mocked him and said, "Here comes the dreamer. Come on now, let's kill him and throw him away to be devoured by a ferocious animal. Then we'll see what comes of his dreams." One of the brothers named Reuben wanted to rescue Joseph, so he said, "Let us not take his life. Instead, throw him in the pit."
Yeah.
So when Joseph came to his brothers, they attacked him. They took the robe their father had given Joseph. They hoisted Joseph up and threw him into the well. Then they saw a group of men from Midian coming towards them. Judah thought it would be a good idea to sell Joseph to these men. So the brothers sold Joseph to the merchants for 20 shekels. The brothers then took the coat of many colors back to their father and made him believe that Joseph had been killed. Israel wept for his son whom he loved. Meanwhile, Joseph was taken as a slave to Egypt to work in the house of a man named Potiphar, for Joseph's story was only just beginning.
Oh no. Joseph is now a slave. I wonder what happens next.
This is Joseph,
Hey.
who was the son of Israel and Rachel.
Ah.
He was his father's favorite, so his brothers hated him
Oh.
and sold him into slavery. You see, Joseph was taken to Egypt, and Potiphar, one of the Pharaoh's officials, bought him for his household. God was with Joseph, and he did well in Potiphar's house.
Oh.
Potiphar saw that God made everything Joseph did a success.
Aha.
So he put Joseph in charge of his whole house.
Yeah.
And God blessed Potiphar's house because of this. Potiphar's wife saw how well Joseph was doing in the house, and she wanted to make him do bad things. Joseph ran away from her because he wanted nothing to do with someone who would try to make him do the wrong thing. This made Potiphar's wife angry, and she wanted to be rid of Joseph. So she lied and made Potiphar believe that Joseph had done the bad things that she wanted him to do. Potiphar burned with anger against Joseph and sent him to prison. While Joseph was in prison, again, he did well, and the warden soon made him responsible for all that was done there. God was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did. When 2 full years had passed, Pharaoh was having unsettling dreams. Pharaoh did not understand his dreams, so he sent for Joseph. Pharaoh asked Joseph to tell him the meaning of his dreams. With God's help, Joseph told Pharaoh that the dreams told of what could come in the future, and he explained all the dreams to the Pharaoh. Pharaoh believed that what Joseph was saying was true. He trusted Joseph as a wise man, and he put him in charge of the land of Egypt, of Pharaoh's palace, and of all his people. Just as Joseph had told the Pharaoh, Egypt had 7 years of abundance. Then the 7 years of abundance came to an end, and the 7 years of famine began. Just as Joseph had said. But the Egyptians had food to eat because Joseph had planned for the famine. There was famine in all the other lands, and many came to Joseph to buy food. There was even a famine in the land that Joseph came from. So when Israel heard that there was grain in Egypt, he sent his sons to buy some.
Yeah!
Time out. Let's talk about something real quick, guys. Playing favorites. Abraham has a favorite son, Isaac, instead of Ishmael. Isaac has a favorite son, which is Esau, instead of Jacob. But guess what? Jacob ends up having a kid, and he has, well, 12 kids, and he has a favorite, which is Joseph. Now, here's the bad thing. When Joseph is like the favorite, his brothers don't like it, and they sell him into slavery. Now, what we just saw is Joseph had lots of success in Egypt, but what happened to his brothers? What happened to his dad? Yeah, we see some bad things happening, that instead of going towards the promised land, they go towards Egypt. See, when we do bad things happen. And that's what we're seeing in the story. Now next, let's see what happens after all the Israelites end up going to Egypt.
This is Moses.
Hey-oh.
Moses was a descendant of Joseph's brother Levi.
Hey!
Joseph and his brothers had many children and grandchildren who lived happily in Egypt. Eventually, a new pharaoh came to power who knew nothing of Joseph or what he had done. This pharaoh feared the Israelites because there was a great number of them living in Egypt, so he wanted to put a stop to their prosperity. Pharaoh made the Israelites slaves. He made them work long, hard hours building up Egyptian cities. But his plan didn't work, and the Israelites grew more in number and in strength.
Eek!
So Pharaoh made a rule that no Israelite boy would be allowed to live in Egypt. This is where Moses' story begins.
Wow, guys. What'd you think about that story? Yeah, so today's topic is slavery. We've talked about creation, the fall, promises of God, and today, slavery. Wow, so what does slavery have to do with Jesus? I guess what I can think of for now is that there was creation, and then there was a fall, but we were saved, right? Because God promises us, a Savior. He promises us ways to get through. But then, when we turn our backs from God, we end up in slavery, right? But there's something good that's going to happen next, and we're going to find out. But when those good things happen, that's because of Jesus. Anyway, let's learn more about it. I love you guys. Talk to you next time. For now, bye.
The most magnificent story ever. From creation to Jesus. The Line It Up series.